Morning. Ooh. I'm really excited to stand up here because it is my favourite topic, employee engagement. The amazing thing is that it's been my favourite topic now for about 20 years, and like my dress sense, if you carry on doing the same thing for 20 years, you're going to be fashionable just once every now and again. And the great thing is that employee engagement is fashionable now. It is the most important thing, and I'm going to talk to you about it and why we need it anyway. So before I start, just to see if there are any dissenters, who doesn't actually think it's important? Anybody who's brave? No show of hands. Put your hand up if you think employee engagement is the most important thing in your organisation at the moment. Put 2 hands up if you think it's really important. It's totally vital. It is the most important thing, and it's great because having been in HR for a long time, you know, I always talked about not being an HR person, and everybody always says that, don't they? I'm not really an HR person, I'm a bit different. I'm not knit your own muesli. It's not all about, you know, being really kind to people. It's about making a real difference to the bottom line, making a difference to the business. And how do you do that? You do that with people who love their jobs. Love your job. And I'm going to talk about that now. People are going wild about employee engagement. Why are they going wild about employee engagement? As I said, because it's the single most important thing that we can do. And it's really interesting because sometimes we get a bit too excited about it and think that you have to be engaged all the time. Put your hand up if every single morning when you get up, you want to go to work. Fabulous. Nobody's lying. I like that. Because, you know, sometimes it's a beautiful day. Sometimes you would rather be outside in the sun rather than going and dealing with stuff you have to deal with every day. Who loves their job? I was going to give the choice of who doesn't love the job, but I thought that'd be a bit mean. It is so important that we get the right people in the right jobs. That's what our job's all about, isn't it? Making sure that they're happy. But so many people aren't. If you look at this statistic here, 71% of the executives looked at, and this is a global study across America and the UK and the Harvard Business Review, have looked at how many people they thought, how important they thought employee engagement was. 71%. Who wants to guess how many thought their people were engaged? What's the guess? Give us a percentage. 30? 5? Who was the pessimist who shouted 5? It's not quite that bad, love. 24%. 24% of the same executives said that their employees were highly engaged. Who's good at maths? What does that mean? 76% of people aren't happy, aren't highly engaged. Do you think that makes a difference? I want some more nods in a minute. Why does it make a difference? It's not about unlocking discretionary effort. I remember 20 years ago we talked about discretionary effort was just the thing. If people came 9 to 5, you actually would never get the job done. I think sometimes discretionary effort's more, you could really call it theft, couldn't you? Because really you should pay the people for the job that they're doing and not expect them to do 15, 16, 17-hour days all the time because they're not effective. This interesting thing about discretionary effort, because I'm more about, you know, we talked about work-life balance. 20 years ago, it was all about work-life balance and making sure that people got what they needed. And for me, it's about work-life integration. I'm the group people director, but I live in Australia. I've got people who sit here, 80 people who are in London. I've got people in Birmingham. I've got 130 people in Bulgaria. I've got 30 people in Sydney, 4 people in Melbourne. They're all over the place. So if I was to work 9 to 5, it wouldn't work. And I love the fact that, you know, that sometimes if it's a nice morning, I might have the morning off because I work in the evening, because I need to work in the evening. And that helps me. When my discretionary effort is my boss, who's sitting down there, lets me work exactly when I like. I can be having my hair cut, texting him. Does he care? No. Why? Because he knows I'm engaged. He knows that I want to do my job, and he knows I want to do my job when it needs to be done, not within these set hours. And that really makes a difference. You know, people don't just switch on and switch off. Days of that are over. You don't clock in and clock out. What you do is you do the job when it needs to be done, and that really is about discretionary effort for me. But you need to make sure people are remunerated. They don't get it for free. And it's not just this thing about reducing attrition. You know, HR metrics. I worked for a Danish pharmaceutical company. We did global metrics, so all the metrics in all the countries had to be the same. We had this thing called unwanted and wanted leavers. Who has to do unwanted and wanted leavers? It's just rubbish, isn't it? How do you work out whether somebody's a wanted or unwanted leaver or not? Do you know, I actually, and sometimes I have to be careful because there's a lot of my people here in the audience now. We talk about when somebody leaves and it's, oh my God, they're leaving, it's all so dreadful. I don't ever think there's a bad time when somebody leaves, ever, 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 ever. Because if they're not a great performer, it's a good reason that they leave. If they're getting a better job and they're progressing, it's a good reason that they leave. If their manager's rubbish and they're leaving the manager, do you know what? They should really leave because they're not having a lovely time. If they're not enjoying themselves, they should leave. If they're not a cultural fit, they should leave. There are only good reasons why people leave. So this whole thing about attrition is a strange thing because why would you want somebody to stay if all the reasons for them staying are poor ones? And this, you know, length of tenure I worked at my previous company, I was the HR director for a big retail, sports retail chain. Been around since 1985 in Australia. And people had been there since 1985. And it was horrendous. You know, they were doing the same, they'd done the same 1 year since 1985. And you know what, couldn't bloody get rid of them. And you know, so this whole thing about attritions, it's not about trying to get people to stay and trying to force them to stay. It's about making sure that the right people stay and they're good at the job and they're happy. And that's employee engagement. So there are 3 key reasons why we want to make sure that these people stay in our organisations and they thrive. The employee engagement surveys, stay, thrive. It's about looking at this. We need to make sure that we understand why it's so important. There are 3 key reasons. I'm going to share them with you. The first reason. Engaged employees make better decisions. They just do. I really firmly believe in giving people a choice, in giving people ownership. And if you haven't seen anybody, who's seen our Culture and Values book? If you haven't had a copy of our Culture and Values book and seen our values, please do have a look because our employees created them. It's not a management thing, it's about what came bottom up from our employees. And it's really about what helps them. And this thing about better decision making really comes out in that too. They make better decisions because they understand more. So our communication channels, we talked about our social media, but our communication channels are really about making sure that our employees understand the meaning of what we do. The whole making the world a happy place to work, we truly, truly believe in that, and we try and help them to understand why that's so important so that they can help you. And it's not just about selling you a solution, it's about helping you understand that the way that your employees behave, the way that your employees feel is so incredibly important. So engaged employees, they just make better decisions because they understand what's going on. Second reason, engaged employees are more productive. And this still isn't about discretionary effort. It's about making sure that people do the right things. And they're more productive because they actually like or even love what they're doing. Who said that they love their job? Sometimes I don't like my job because it's too long. Why is that? Because I choose to work harder, I choose to work longer, and sometimes, you know, I should just stop because there comes a time when I'm not actually that effective. But I love what I'm doing. So it's not just about clocking in, as we said, and clocking out. It's about reading that article, making sure that, you know, you're just interested in something. Who said that? Give them a call, connect with somebody. It's about this whole integration piece. So engaged employees are more productive. They do more, they understand more, they make better decisions, they're more productive because they really love what they're doing. And the third reason, they innovate more. And it's amazing working for Reward Gateway because it is really this house of innovation. We're always thinking about what we can do next. You've got Seb, who's sitting down here with the blue shirt. If you want something different or want something new, you've got a great idea, you can hijack Seb down here. He's our head of product. And it's great because we come up with these great ideas and then we say, Seb, by tomorrow, can you have created this thing? And you know what? Because he's engaged, he thinks, do you know what, we haven't got that at the moment, but hold on, what could it look like? He's engaged, he's interested, he makes new things, he makes things happen. He wants us to succeed. He's bought into the business. It makes such a difference. And it makes such a difference that we're all on the same page. So there are 3 great reasons why people need to be engaged. And using Seb again as an example, engaged employees choose the hard path. What they don't say is, nah, I can't do that. They say, do you know what? I think that'll be difficult. Leave it with me. I can do something that's amazing. It'll take a little bit of time. We might need some new resource. What do you think it would look like? How about this? How about this? This would be even better than that. They choose something that's different. They make life hard for themselves. They don't just say yes and do something which is down here. They raise the bar. They choose the hard path for their organisations. And sometimes it is hard. It's hard, isn't it? It takes some thinking about. It's not the line of least resistance. They take the hard path, and they take the hard path because they really care. And it's about our standards and driving them higher. Who remembers employee satisfaction surveys, climate surveys, that sort of thing? I hate the word satisfaction. It's a bit of a mediocre word, isn't it? Are you satisfied? It's a horrible word, isn't it? That might be on my banned list of words. I've got other banned list of words, but they're not as polite. Customer satisfaction surveys. Customer satisfaction. Excellent, good, average, or poor. Satisfied is a bit of a mediocre word, I think. That's just yesterday. Satisfied is yesterday. We can't afford for our customers to be satisfied. We need you to love stuff. The question we need to be asking ourselves is, does my customer love me? All the products that I use as an HR person, I will go out and sell. So Bamboo HR, if you're looking for a new HR system, HRIS, have a look at Bamboo. It's truly amazing. Lets you do all sorts. Cheap as chips, love it. Love it. I should get a commission. It's so good, I love it. Somebody asked me, I'd sell it to them. In fact, we should put it on our little link on our website and say, if you haven't got one, use Bamboo. It's brilliant. I'm an advocate. I don't get any money for it. Why am I an advocate? I love the company. Their customer service is brilliant. You ask them to do something they haven't done before, they create it. Why? They're interested. Why? They want to make me happy. They want me to love them. It's so important, and we should be asking that question all the time. Our customers won't love us unless our people love us. That's the real connection. Unless our people are engaged, they won't cause our customers to love us because they won't give them amazing customer service. That's really important. That's the piece. Remember what I said about selling Bamboo? If you're looking for an HRIS system, I guarantee that you'll go and have a look now. Why? Because I've stood on the stage and I've told you, because I was interested in it, and I'm an advocate. I don't work for the company, but I'm selling it for them. I'm selling it because I love them. So we should be asking ourselves, if our customers love our product and love our people, do they sell it for us? This is the other thing. How much business is my customer losing me? Not only am I the HR director, I'm the managing director of the Australian business. And we don't do many things which are banned in Reward Gateway, but we don't say the word no in the Australian business. If somebody wants to say no, they have to come and say why they're saying no. Because I want our customers to be really happy. And if we've cocked up and we've made a mistake, I need them to make them even more happy. I need to create an advocate out of the customers that really we've done a shoddy job to, for whatever reason. Might be something to do with the product or something they weren't expecting. It could have just been a bit of poor service that's just not acceptable. But I know that a lot of the mistakes that we've made have actually created advocates, because what I don't want is somebody to go and say, oh God, it was a dreadful experience. I want them to say, do you know what, we had a little bit of a hiccup, but God, they made such a difference. They were so good, they made it extra right. And I don't want our customers to be going around and saying anything bad about us. And the way that we can mitigate against that is by making sure that our people understand that it's fine for them to go that extra mile. And the only way they'll go the extra mile is if they love the job. So it just seems to make sense to me. Really, really does seem to make sense. So this guy, Dharmesh Shah, he's the CTO and founder of a company called HubSpot. Has anybody heard about HubSpot? Fabulous product. Fabulous, a marketing tool. You should go and have a look. Looks about inbound marketing, very, very good. So if you haven't seen HubSpot, go and have a look. He created this word called delightion. Quite like that. It's better than satisfaction, isn't it? Delightion. Delightion, the noun. A feeling of strong happiness or satisfaction to the point that you rave about the provider of the event that led to that feeling. Delightion. I am delightion. No, I'm delighted. I have a feeling of delightion about Bamboo. Makes my life easier. So, do we have that feeling of delightion with our products that we have now for HR? I'm not sure that we do. I remember, I don't know what the opposite to delightion would be, but I remember years ago when I first got my first HR director job and we had SAP HR. So this is the anti-feeling of delightion. SAP HR, there used to be, I don't know if it is now, but there used to be a little top hat that you put on to people if they were in charge. I remember one day the HR admin, for some reason, took the top hat off the CEO and it all went terribly wrong. His email address was deleted, everything went wrong, and a note went out to everybody saying that he'd left. So he called me up and he said, "Has something happened I don't know about?" I said, "No." He said, "It appears I've left." I said, "Oh dear." So I thought, well, we won't do that again. So we put the top hat back on there. And about an hour later, bloody did it again. So I spoke to the HR. I said, "What are you doing?" She said, "I don't know. I just wondered if it could happen again or if I'd done it by mistake the first time." I thought, why would you do that? And then I thought to myself, you know what? For my HR team, it's about understanding. We have to understand what we're using. We have to understand the impact of all of our actions, and we have to understand what it means to our customers. And, you know, it doesn't matter, no customer is more important than any other, but in my day then, you know, when I was the first HR, it was about the first month of my first HR director job, and I'd managed to sack the CEO twice. It wasn't great. And then it made me realise that this whole thing about her understanding the impact of what she did and the fact that it wasn't just a bit of admin when she could keep touching the button like this to see what happened. You know, it was really, really important to the business that we did it right. And in this increasing social world, it's even more important because, you know what, the minute that something happens, Ollie talked about tweeting and stuff. There's this other thing called Periscope. So actually I could be live, broadcast live now to the other side of the world by any one of you and I wouldn't know about it. So if I made a mistake, in fact, you're always doing that, aren't you, Dom? I'm always seeing your Periscope. I don't know if there's anybody seen Periscope. You should have a look at that. It's wild. Things spread like wildfire. Do you know what? Good news rarely spreads. Have you noticed that? In fact, I've stopped reading the paper. When I checked into the hotel last Monday, they said, "Would you like a paper, madam?" After the first 2 days of reading the paper, I decided I'm not going to read the paper. One, because it was all full of bad news, and two, actually, because it's yesterday's news, isn't it? It's actually yesterday's news. Today's news is on social media. It's on your phone. It comes up as a news feed. It comes up as somebody texts you something. You can read it on Twitter. It's about the now. And it's really important that our customers have more power than they've ever had before, because if they love something, they can say it there and then. And if they don't love it, they can say it there and then. So we have to make sure that we're doing the right thing and our people are passionate about what they do and they are engaged. We have to create this customer love. It is so important, and we do that through our people, because we can't do that sitting there in HR. We have to make sure that people really get it. It is so important. So, how can you create customer love if you only have employee satisfaction? So this thing about engagement, it's not just about somebody saying, "I'm doing the best job that I can." It's about them feeling it. It's about you communicating everything to them. It's about you creating an environment where they can share and learn and grow and do all of those really important things. But it's not a tick box exercise. It's something that we as HR professionals really, really have to believe in. And it's about the now. There's a more pressing urgency. This whole speed kills things. You know, actually, I probably know that my partner sitting over in Australia now is probably watching this because he can, because it gets there so very quickly. People of a certain age, I must confess I am now 51, I've passed the watershed, and as my son says, you're nearly dead, Mum, which is a bit cruel. But I remember the days where if you wanted to tell somebody in another department, you put it in one of those yellow envelopes. Who remembers the yellow envelope? You know, with a bit of string on, where you wrote somebody's name in the little box, and then you put it in the envelope and you put a bit of string on, and then you read it. You don't remember that, do you? I know, darling. Don't tell me, it makes me depressed. And then when you read it, you scribbled your name out, and then you wrote the next person that you had to go on to, and then you put it in a tray, and then if you were in a big company, there was like a tea lady who came around the tea, and then there was a post bloke who picked the post up from your out tray, and I do remember that as well. We had an office then as well. It was the most hideous thing that ever happened to me. It was my first job with an office because I got bored on my own. I had to keep going out and seeing somebody else, so I would take the post round and deliver it until my boss told me that was the most expensive post person they'd ever had. But the thing with that is that, you know, it took time. And you know what? Then we used to write letters. When was the last time you wrote a letter? I've been in Australia since 2008. I've never actually posted a letter because it was about email. And now, for those Reward Gateway people in the room, just because you send me an email doesn't mean I've read it, and it doesn't mean I approve and I've said yes just because I haven't answered. Why? Because I get 300, 400 emails a day. When I wake up in the morning, the worst thing about living on the opposite side of the world is that when you're asleep, everybody else is awake. So then you wake up, you have this hideous feeling of dread when you've got like another 400 email messages you haven't read. And most of them actually was a question about something they've already asked somebody else because they were too lazy to find out the answer themselves. So you sit there with your first coffee going delete, 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 delete. So now I just don't bother. And why not? Because that was a bit yesterday. And there's instant messaging. Who uses instant messaging? Like Google Hangouts or text or iMessage or something like that. I love it. Glenn tells a great story of the fact that, you know, he went to the bathroom and he came back and there was 10 instant message chat windows open on his computer. So actually for him now, that's becoming even less effective. So you need to find something else. But we do know that this is a hint for everybody, we do know that he does check his Instagram. So if he hasn't called you and he's not picking up the phone, just picture of yourself saying, call me now. Send it to his Instagram and he'll get it. So you have to find out the way that people communicate and the way they want to communicate. Do they want something in their Twitter feed? Do they want it in Facebook? Is it Instagram? Do they like email? Would they like a pigeon? You know, it's about making sure that you do something, you do it now. It's the right communication for the right time for the right person. And you have to make sure that you do it immediately because otherwise it's history. And then what happens? Speed kills companies because everybody else does it quicker than you. So we have to make sure that we do it right. And communicating to our people is really, 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 really important because you know what? I'd like to think that people think HR are important, but they don't, do they? People don't read HR emails, do they? Do you know, even the people that are in my company now, if I said to them, did you read that? They'd say yes, but they'd be lying. Because they don't. So we have to communicate with our people, we have to communicate with them quickly, and we have to communicate in the right medium. And if we don't, other people have got that message across to them. So technology makes everything go so much faster. The internet makes everything go so much faster, so you can see it now. It's not about looking at it in the newspaper. And when things go faster, it gets harder because everybody else gets there before we do if we're not careful. And change is getting faster all the time. When I got in here, synchronicity is really important. I met a colleague who comes from very close to where I come from. He's from Fleetwood, I'm from Blackpool. Don't say any Blackpool jokes, badness. He now lives in Colchester. I live in Sybil Headingham, or my house is in Sybil Headingham. You know, we talk about things and change getting quicker and faster. We talked about the fact that we love change because we get bored. But we need to make sure that we're up with the speed of change, and that is so critical to everything that we do. And as HR people, we have to make sure that in this speed of change that we optimise things and we make sure that things are the best that they can possibly be. And optimise is such a hideous word for people, isn't it? Because it makes it sound like you're sort of eradicating them. But you know what? That is the option, really, because there are two sorts of organisations that are really going to thrive. The first one is ones that eliminate their people. Eliminate's a bit harsh as well, isn't it? But there are organisations out there who are doing everything that they can to work as lean as they possibly can, to have as least possible people doing the jobs, because that's the way that they can make the bottom line work. Because for some companies that's incredibly important, and they have to do that or they have to automate. And then there's those companies that are engaging their people. The two companies that come to mind, actually, this is great. This is eighth generation warehouse, fulfillment warehouse for Amazon. It's great. I love these little cleaver things that they go along a little cloth on the road, they go underneath something, a little spiral comes up underneath the racking, they lift it up and then they go and move it. And you know what? This is a huge, huge warehouse, 8 football pitches worth of warehouse with 4 people in it. Why? Because they've automated it. They've got these great, great robots who just do the job for us. And you know what? Some days when people have been moaning and say those words, do you mind if I have a word? You think, I wish I had a whole warehouse full of robots. It would be so much easier. However, that's not the sort of business we're in. But Amazon do a great job. And you know, this is the cost of you ordering something on a Sunday and getting it Monday morning, is the fact that they automate it. And they're really good at it. And they've actually bought the company that does this, the robotics company that does this, and I'm suggesting that actually there aren't a lot of robotics experts in this room. And that instead of it, that you're people experts, and you're looking at John Lewis here, a world acclaimed company for engaging their people. You know, when I was in retail in Australia, the whole business team came out to look at how we should be treating our people, and we came to John Lewis to look at the way that they engage their people and the way they make them love their job, because it's a world's better practice. So I'm suggesting that as HR people, that the robot route probably isn't the one you want to go down, because we need to do other stuff instead. And engagement is a choice. We can decide whether we want to pare everything down, whether we want to keep doing mushroom management, whether we want to keep people in the dark and not tell them anything, or we want to really engage our people. Because once an organisation has chosen that path, we can then make sure that we choose to inspire our people, to influence them, to make sure that they choose engagement too. Because you can't make somebody be engaged, but what we can do is we can create the environment for engagement. And that's really what we're about. That's my trade. My trade is create an environment where people can love their job. And I would say that's what I'm reasonable about. And you know what? I only say I'm reasonable because there's a better way of doing it. And every day, because change is moving on, there's a better way of doing things. And that's what we have to really keep our finger on the pulse of. But there is an elephant in the room. There is an elephant in the room. I'm going to share it with you now. So there might be a real sharp intake of breath here for the people who really love it. You can't just engage your people with benefits alone. Or to put it in the vernacular, cheap shopping doesn't fix a shit culture. Just because you give them stuff, just because you give them benefits. You know, my sister's worked for a UK airline for 30 years. She is the most amazingly paid golden handcuffed person. Can't go and work anywhere else because she can't afford it. Hates her job. They just give her more stuff. Cheap flights. Something off the duty-free trolley. Keep her happy. She hates it. Loathes, detests it. She would be so much better if she went and worked somewhere else. But she can't. because that's how they feel that they engage their people. That's how they tie them to the organisation. But she doesn't perform well and she doesn't love it. And people feel it. I've flown with her, actually, and she looks like she's sucking a lemon. I told her, and she didn't like that. So let's look at it. Let's look at it as if it's a bridge. So on one side of this bridge, you've got you, and on the other side of the bridge, you've got your employees. Benefits are the bottom. You have to give them benefits. You have to pay them, don't you? Or else they wouldn't come to work. You have to be, have a great space in the marketplace and make sure that you can attract the right people by paying a benchmark, if you like. But there's so much more than just benefits. There is so much more than just benefits. You have to care about your people. There's this thing about wellness, health and well-being. It's not just about being fit, physically fit, it's about being mentally fit. And I do question, actually, and I don't know if anybody follows me on LinkedIn or will follow me on LinkedIn. I'm specifically interested in mental health because my daughter-in-law has mental health issues. I'm really interested in mental health. And looking into that and looking with some of my colleagues in the HR community in Australia, we've worked out that some of the people who are off with depression actually aren't depressed, they just don't like the job. You know, so I think there's a difference between mental health and well-being and wellness and people loving the job. So making sure that you've got the right job fit, and we'll go to that bit of the bridge in a second. Being really open and honest. You know, one of the main tenets when Glenn started the company nearly 10 years ago was that he would tell everybody everything as soon as he possibly could, open and honest. And it's really interesting about the culture between that, because in Australia, I've just bought our main competitor, and you can see there's two of the parallel companies. One company, Reward Gateway, where we tell everybody everything, and their company where they weren't told that they were going to be acquired until the day of acquisition. And the difference is just amazing. That whole feeling of belonging, the whole feeling of ownership, how they felt about it afterwards. You know, it's taken quite a while to build those people up and realise that actually this open and honest communication is something that goes through the thread of our organisation. And why does it do that? Because we want people to own their own behaviour. We want people to know as much as humanly possible so they can change their whole behaviour, so they can help the speed of change and know the direction that we're going in. And we do that by telling people great things. You've got Rob Marsh sitting there, who is the anchor of our TV programme. So we talked about our YouTube channel. Go and have a look at some of our fortnightly TV programmes. Our global briefing. So good. Such a good bit of information to make sure that people know what's going on. And this whole thing about purpose and meaning and values, everybody that works at Reward Gateway know that they are there to make the world a happier place to work. That's why I come to work. I come to work because I love it. I know the purpose of the job. We talk about our values. We talk about living our values. We talk about, you know, why are we doing what we're doing? It's not just, you know, when we first started 9 years ago, it was mostly about discounted shopping. The world has changed so vastly since then. Now it's about communication, it's about engagement, it's about making sure that we connect with every one of our different companies and give them a really bespoke solution to match their needs, not to match our needs. And the only way you can do that is by making sure that everybody that works for us understands that that's our purpose as well. And then we're going to put leadership and management up there as well. I would say in every single company that I've ever worked in, we talk about leadership and we talk about management all the time. What are our first line managers like? Our new managers, how are they behaving? How do people feel about them? Well, if we do the T12 engagement score about, you know, do people feel that they know what they're doing? Do they feel valued? Do they've got a friend at work? Has the manager told them they've done a good job? All of these things. A lot of it is about leadership and management. So you need to make sure that you invest in that too and that that works. And then people are in the right jobs. Who does job descriptions? Who doesn't do job descriptions? It's a really interesting one, this whole job design. And if you don't have job descriptions that people can own and people understand what they're supposed to do, I would urge you to go and have a look how to do it, to look at your job design, to work out if people really do know what they're supposed to be doing. And if you don't want to design a new program or how to do it, drop me a mail and I'll send you some of ours to look at. People need to understand why they're there. We had a thing a couple of years ago that actually I think we might resurrect, which was the 2 reasons. The 2 reasons why you're there. I am here to make sure that people love their job. That is my reason for being here. Make sure they love their job and they understand what they should be doing. If that's all I do, then I've succeeded. I think we might resurrect that because it's really simple. I think, sometimes we come up with some great ideas and change happens, but, there's nothing wrong with going back and having something that you did before rise up to the top again. So job design is really, really important, and having the right people in the right job makes them love their job. And you often see people either gravitate to doing what they love, and that's not part of their job, or actually don't do the things they don't love, because that's a big part of their job, and that is so important about employee engagement. And then recognition. Out of this room now, this is interesting, in the last week, whose boss has told them they've done a good job? Let's flip it on its head. Who hasn't been told for the last month that they've done a good job? Oh, shush. We tell you do a good job all the time, pop it. That's our CEO if you can't see him. He said nobody tells him he does a good job. I think it... Oh, thanks, Chris. I think it's really important that we understand that all of these things are about employee engagement. And you know what? It's not about just the benefits. It's not about just the pay. People who are learning, growing, doing things that they love, being treated really nicely, working in a great environment where they feel ownership, they are engaged. It's not just about the benefits that sit there. It's about all of these things, creating an environment where it all works together. And you know what? It's hard. And that's why, as HR professionals, that's why it's our job to make sure that all of these things happen. It's not just about that bottom bit of the bridge of benefits. It's so vital. It's good to have it. People like the perks. It's not the one thing. I'm going to finish now. I'm going to pass back to Ollie, and I'm going to thank you very much for listening to me. It is my passion. It is my orange box topic. I'd love to connect with you. I'm in the UK quite frequently, so it'd be nice to come round and talk to more of you on a one-to-one basis. So either tweet me or send me an email or a text or something. It'd be great to connect. Thanks very much.